This is going to give you a chance to kind of get under the hood and understand how it was put together.
If you simply close your eyes and allow yourself to hear all the sounds that are going on around.
Hey guys, Dilby here. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here in my studio in Berlin and we've got an awesome video for you today. So a few of you guys have been messaging me saying that you're having trouble with arrangements and can I do a video on something like that? Well, you asked for it, so Dilby delivers. What I'm going to share with you is a technique for analyzing and mapping out your favorite track. This is going to give you a chance to kind of get under the hood and understand how it was put together and how all the elements kind of work together in sequence. It's a bit complicated to explain too much, so it's probably better that we get into it. But before that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the bell on, all of that good stuff. You know how it helps. And if you're interested in mixing, mastering, track feedback, any of those services, then there's a link in the description. Now let's get into Ableton and do this thing. Alright, so here we are inside Ableton, and what I've got here is my track Synergy, which came out a few months back on Bondage Music. The reason I've picked this one is because it's a bit kind of deep and minimal. There's not too much going on, so it's going to be easier for me to show you this concept and demonstrate how it works. But you can do this with any track, no matter how complicated. What I like to do is start off simple, and then you can work through the layers of the track and get more and more detailed. So the fundamental idea of what we're doing is we're using blank MIDI clips to map out the arrangement of our reference track. That's going to allow us to really kind of get under the hood and understand what's kind of creating the tension and release in the track, what specific elements they've got in the track, and how those elements are working together over time to build up the track. So the first thing that's really worth pointing out here is what I've got is a bunch of blank MIDI channels here, and I've colored them in the same way as I color my template. Having this visual reference is going to allow me to look back on this and quickly identify what's going on, what elements are what. I'm a big advocate of doing this in your projects that you're working on, and therefore it makes sense to do this when you're mapping out a reference track, as it's going to help for you to have those visual cues. So red is for drums, blue bass, green is for melodic, yellow vocals, and this purple color is effects and that kind of thing. So the first thing that I like to start off with is laying out the kick drum. So I'm just going to put in a blank MIDI clip here, and I'll rename this as kick. Now I can see here, it looks like there's a break, so let's have a listen. Yep, so the kick comes out there. So I'm going to color that pink. Now this is the same thing that I do in my arrangements when I'm writing a track. Command E to break that, right click, make that pink. Okay, Command E to break it, color that pink. Now it looks like the kick actually drops out altogether here. Yep. So Command E and 0 to deactivate that.
Music.
Same here. So there, that's really basic. That's just showing the kick, but already we can kind of understand a lot of what's going on in the track just by that. You know, we can see where the breakdowns are, and that's a key part of the arrangement. So I'm going to go in a bit more detail. I can see it looks like there's a kick dropping out at the end of every 8 bars. So there the kicks all mapped out. Now let's do the bass line, which I color blue. So I'm just going to skip through here and listen to where this element that I'm trying to identify comes in. So it's a subby bass and it looks like it comes in there. Okay, so there we go, that's where the bass line ends. Now these little bits here, I heard that they didn't have, I heard that the filter was dropped out there. So I'm going to do the same here. And just give it a different color. Now all the colors that I'm using translate to the colors that I use when I'm arranging a track. So I feel like it's very important to do that because it's going to just give me more of those visual cues so I can instantly identify what's happening. So you can start to see how this is going to build up. We're going to put in some more drum elements. I'll just duplicate that, delete the kick. So I'm just going to listen through quickly and get a basic idea of how these drums are built up.
Just listen.
There's a couple of things I can hear there. I'm going to call one of these backbeat. And this is just what I kind of refer to as like the basic clap and hi-hat pattern that's going all the way throughout the track, right? So backbeat just goes all the way through. There was also a, let's just call it bongo perk. It's just trying to identify this kind of percussion bed that's going all the way through the track. So I'll duplicate that. And the first thing I remember hearing was a shaker which came in somewhere. So it's important when you're going through here, you're just listening for a specific element.
By listening.
So there we go, shaker. So let's just listen through and try and identify where the shaker is and isn't in the track.
All the sounds that are going on around you.
Okay, so no shaker there. Now next thing.
That are going on around you.
So there's this like 16th note hi-hat.
If you
So we can see that that's where the 16th note hi-hat happens. What else did I hear? I heard a ride. So there we can already see how powerful this is. Just by looking at the arrangement that we're mapping out, we can see that what's happening in these little breaks is that everything's being taken out just before the drop. Now, I think at the start I heard a little percussion change. So it's quiet and subtle, but there is a clav that comes in here. Now that looks to me like basically all of the drums. Now let's start with some melodic elements. Okay, so I can hear that there's like this kind of filtered atmospheric kind of thing that seems to be going all the way through the track. What's next? Okay, so let's call those filter chords. Right, so it sounds like they go all the way up to here. Now, what else have we got?
by listening. The easy by listening.
So I can hear two things come in there. There is something that I'll call high plucks and pad. And there's the end of high plucks, and the pad
The easiest way
is definitely coming in there.
by listening.
But it's a bit filtered out, so I'll color it like this so I can see that there's a difference in intensity. Now listen through for the pad. So we can already see here how this pad is transitioning through the arrangement. Now, what else did I hear? Chord stab, dubby kind of thing.
If you simply close your eyes,
Duplicate that. Dub chords. So, I think there's just one more melodic element, which is this kind of theme. Yeah, so this riff that comes in here. Okay. So it's not too much, but it sounds like it starts off a little bit filtered, opens up a bit.
by listening.
I would actually even change these. Oh. Like this. And that's going to give me a different understanding, because in my mind I use this for when something is filtered down, this for when it's normal, and this for when it grows in intensity. And this is just my color coding system that I've developed that allows me to quickly visually identify what's going on in my arrangement. So by having them colored like this, that it gives me that visual cue that, yeah, right, okay, this is kind of like normal filter openness, and then this is like more open, more intense. So now we're going to go through and listen to the vocal.
The easiest way to get into the meditative state is to begin by listening.
So I'm just listening to the vocals here and identifying which are, if they're the same or they're different, and then just giving them a different name.
The easiest way.
So that looks like that's it for the vocals. So because this is a spoken word, I've just kind of given the sections different names: Vox 1, Vox 2, Vox 3, Vox 1. So that just allows me to quickly understand what's happening here. This could be, you could name this verse, chorus, pre-chorus, or like chopped vocal, hook, whatever. However it relates to the track. Just give it a name that is going to allow you to quickly understand what it is that's happening in that section. Now let's get on to the effects. I'm just going to duplicate this a few times. Now I remember hearing a crash somewhere.
That are going on. If you
All right. Okay, so I heard two things there. One, I'm going to call wash riser. It sounds like the drums are being sent to a reverb.
Listen to the general hum and buzz of the world.
Okay. So it's happening there, but it's a little bit less intense. So I'm just going to color it a lighter purple. So there, I've coloured those different colours so that I can see that that's being like automated up and up and up. And then at the end, that is going to give me a little visual cue that it tails off there or something, or it's filtered down. Now at the start there was like a little glitch, I think.
By listening.
Call that one glitch. Now does it happen here? And in here I'm going to put a reverse crash.
By listening. As if you were listening to music.
Alright, so that seems to be pretty much most of the stuff in the track. I'm sure we could go into more detail and get little things that are in there, but really from the standpoint of it being useful, this is plenty. We can really get a great idea here of how this track is built up. So we can see that there's like an intro section here, which has a little drop here, the vocal theme.
The easiest way
is introduced, and then there's a drop where some more melodic elements are introduced. The vocal theme carries on, there's a little break, and a drop where the vocal comes out and a new melodic element is introduced. Different parts of the percussion are coming in and out to create tension and release. The ride comes in, which gives more energy.
don't try.
Then all of this pad is building up towards the main break. Then at the main break, a bunch of the percussion comes out to kind of bring the energy down, and this vocal theme is brought back in, which creates a kind of familiarity. So it kind of comes down, the vocal comes in, people are like, okay, so this is the break. So by having these things like the percussion and the low end of the bass come out, and then the vocals stop, it gives space to introduce this new lead theme. Then this wash riser builds up as the theme builds up. All of the elements are taken out here to give this sense of anticipation before the drop, where it is just this theme playing, and along with the pad, right? So that's kind of creating a moment in the track. Then everything comes back in, the groove's back in the club, you know, all of the low end comes back in, the groove's happening again. So that groove goes along, and then we start to build up again with the theme here.
The easiest way to get into the meditative state.
Reintroducing the vocal, then cutting the kick and the bass, cutting the low end.
By listening.
Using that reverb wash to build up to the final drop. This pad is coming down, some of the percussive elements are coming out to a definite outro section here. Cool, so you can really see the way that the energy flows throughout the track, and that can give you a really good idea of interesting ways that you can build up your track. Another thing you can use this arrangement mapping for is grab a post-it note, write down some kind of key elements that you're going to use in a track. You might write down here kick, backbeat, percussion, clave or wood block or something like that, shaker, ride, bass, pad, some chords, melodic theme, vocal, this kind of thing. So then when you're actually developing ideas, you've got like this hit list of things that you're going to try and put into the track. And those, you don't necessarily need to reference this track while you're doing that. You've made like a little list that you can like check off so that you know that you're creating enough elements to flesh out an arrangement. Instead of this high plucks, you could put in an ARP or something like that. But you're using what you've learnt from this arrangement, then applying it to the process of writing a track. Another thing that you can do is basically using that checklist process of defining which elements are going to go into your track, and then use the mapping from a different track to inspire your arrangement. And that way you're kind of getting away from the idea, the concept of like copying something that someone else has done, and you're just using those reference tracks to inspire or influence the way that you're going to write and arrange a track. So you're taking ideas from here and ideas from here and combining them to make something that's going to be unique to your track. This idea of like mapping out the arrangement here is basically the same as using a reference track, but just with a lot more detail. And this can help you really understand what's going on in the tracks that you love and the music that you aspire to create. One thing that this has really helped me with was understanding that there doesn't actually need to be that much in a track to make it work. It's more the way that those elements work together and the way that they flow over time. Another key lesson that I learned from this is that taking elements out in an arrangement can be as impactful, if not more impactful, than adding in something new. So basically by 1.5 to 2 minutes, you've introduced most of, if not all of the elements that are going to be in the track. And then taking away some of those elements can create a moment just as much as bringing in something totally new. So there you go, guys. What did you think of that? Let me know in the comments. I found this technique to be super useful myself, as it kind of demystifies the arrangement process, and it also gives me something I can look back on to refresh my memory. If there's other topics you think I should cover on the channel, then hit me with a DM on Instagram. It's @DilbyDJ. I love hearing from you guys, so look out for your message in my inbox. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. We'll catch you next time. Peace.